Hello there! On today's video, we're going to talk about mix tasks. And I have one question that I want to ask you. How did we create the product controller or the product HTML, these Higgs files? We created them manually, right? And this is good for learning purposes, of course, but let's be honest. On the real world, you need to move fast and ship features fast. So is there any type of generator from Phoenix that I can use in order to just scaffold something like Rails? Is there like a scaffold command in Phoenix? Yes, there is. Actually, there are many commands that you can use in order to quickly bootstrap a new feature. And the mixed tasks, they are very granular. So if you want to generate just the schema on the database, the migration file, or the HTML or JSON, you can choose what you want to generate. So let me go to the documentation. And as always, I always link the documentation on the description of the course, okay? So mixed tasks, they're pretty much the generators from Phoenix, and we have lots of them. You have the mix local.phx, which is used to upgrade your Phoenix generator. I recommend running this command every time you want to generate a new Phoenix project. But the generators that I use the most are mix phx.gen.context. This generates just the backend files for a feature. Or if you want a full stack feature, you can use the gen HTML, gen JSON, or gen live. This last one is to generate live views. And I'm going to show you, there's even a tab dedicated to mix tasks on the documentation. So you can click here and then you can inspect to see what exactly each one of them generates. And you might be confused by the name here, like, okay, this one generates the context, but what exactly do you call a context? Does it include the schema, the migration? Is it just the context? So there is a very useful table that you can see on the documentation. You can go to mix tasks, mix.phx.gen. Here you can see the complete difference for every CRUD generator. So as you can see, the simplest form of generator is mix.phx gen embedded. This creates an embedded schema and a schema only. It doesn't even generate the migration, just the schema. If you want the schema alongside the migration, the migration alongside the schema, you can run the second one. And as you can see, the gen context generates all the files and stop on the front end. So we don't have a controller, we don't have a view, we don't have live view, that's up to you. And I like this command because I am primarily a front-end developer, so I like having control over the front end. But on the back end, it's like, okay, just generate it for me. I'm gonna do some small changes, and then the front end, leave it to me. So this is my favorite, and we're going to start using mix.gen context. Now, let me go up to the project, open up the terminal. I'm gonna type mix.phx.gen.context. And what is the syntax to generate, to use the CRUD generators? Let me go to mix.gen context. Here is the syntax. I know it's a bit weird because on the Rails scaffold, you just give it one name. And on Phoenix, we need 3 names. The first one is going to be the context responsible for encapsulating your business domain. So here I recommend naming this the name of your schema, but in plural. So let's say that I want to create a separate table for consoles. Right now we're using console as, is it product? Okay, product. Console is just an enum, which is fine from the start if you want to build an MVP quickly and all. But let's be honest, it makes sense to move this on a separate table, right? So I'm going to create the console. The first name that we need here is the context. I'm going to say consoles, followed by the name of your schema. So the name of the schema is simply going to be console, okay? And I already gave you this pro tip, but yeah, if you don't want to spend a lot of time naming things, I like naming the context the plural form of the schema. And then the third name that you need to pass is the name of your table. Our table is simply going to be named consoles. And this is the database table, so you can use all the letters downcase. Okay, now you can start naming each individual column on the consoles table. Well, we can create a name column, and now you can add the type of each column. So you can say name colon followed by the type. So here you can type string or integer or float. If you want a complete list of all the types available, you can go back to the documentation. You're going to click on mix phx gen schema, scroll down, and there you go. The following types are supported: integer, float, decimal, boolean, and even references. Like if you want to build a table that is connected to another one, you can use these references. And then, yeah, for example, if you have a blog post, this blog post belongs to a user, you're gonna type user ID on the terminal, references, users, and the name of the table that is related. But let's go back. We have a name, which is going to be a string. And if you do not pass anything here, then by default, it's going to be a string. And then I'm gonna add a price. Okay, the price will be an integer. And I think that's it for now. Let's press enter. Now, as you can see, we generated a migration. And in order to run this migration, you're going to type mix ecto migrate. Now, for this video, I'm going to show another generator, so I'm not going to run the migrate. But if you wanted to migrate and then roll back, you can do the following: mix ecto.migrate. And if you regret doing that, you can just do mix ecto rollback. Okay, so let's see the files that were generated. First one that we can see is the migration. Super useful, right? We have name, it's a string, price, it's an integer. We already have the timestamps generated automatically. Nice. Let's see the other one. We have the schema also generated by us, for us with the timestamps. Really nice. We already have the change set as well, so we don't have to worry about that. And then check this out. If I close the schema file, I also have the context. This is the best part about generating the context. The most common functions that you want to run here, which is like listing the consoles, getting the console by ID, creating the console, updating the console, deleting the console, like the complete CRUD operation, it was generated for you automatically. And not only that, but it is highly documented. So if you hover the mouse here, for example, there's documentation, there are examples on how to use it. Here are examples. If we have like delete console, for example, you can see that delete console is either going to return OK and the console struct, or an error and an ecto change set. So super useful. If we close the shop folder, what about shop web? Let's see. Did anything change here? Oh no, this is an error, sorry. As you can see here, there are no new files on shop web. And that's because the context generator does not generate any views, any controllers. Nope. It stops at the context. And to finalize the context generator, we can inspect the test folder. This is very useful. If we go back to shop, we have a consoles test. So this consoles test is testing the context, which is very useful. So yeah, we have describe consoles. This one tests the list consoles function. This one tests the get console by ID, create console, update console. Extremely useful. And another thing that I really enjoy about the generator is that it generates a fixture. So we have consoles fixtures, that's a hard word for a non-English native speaker. And you can simply run this function, console fixture, on anywhere, in your tests, and it's going to create a console. Super useful. And if, for example, we had some unique fields, you could see that the fixture is going to generate a unique field as well. And I'm going to show you this right now. But that's enough for the context generator. I'm simply going to undo all of this. And now I'm going to show you the difference on the HTML generator. And don't worry, the JSON generator I'm going to show on a separate video dedicated just for building REST APIs. So now I'm going to go back to mix, paychecks, gen, HTML. Now instead of generating a consoles table, I am going to generate a promotions table. So I'm going to say mix, phx, gen.html, and it's the same procedure. You're going to type the name of your context first, which is usually the plural of your schema. So I'm going to say promotions. Don't forget the first letter uppercase. Then the name of your schema, that's promotion singular. And of course, you can name this whatever you want. This is just an example to make your life easier. And now the database name, that is, promotions, all lowercase, plural. Okay, so promotion. What are we going to have on a promotion? We're going to have a name. That's going to be a string. We're going to have a code. The code, I'm going to say that it's unique. It's a string, and it's unique. And then I think I'm going to create an expires at. The expires at, you can check all the date times that we have available. So if we go back, mix, gen, schema, there you go. The date times, we have just date, UTC date time. We have naive date time. For now, I'm just going to use UTC date time. And I think that's it. All right. Now, here you can find the difference already. It says run the migration, but it also says, hey, add this to your router. And why do we have this new line here? Because it generated the HTML files. Not only the context, but also the controllers, the HTML files, everything. So on this example, I think I'm going to run the mix ecto.migrate. Okay. And then, yeah, as you can see, we are getting a bunch of errors related to the verified routes because Phoenix is saying, hey, I don't have a route for that. And we're getting these errors, these warnings, because we didn't add the routes to the router. So I'm going to copy this. Let me open up the router. I think I'm just going to end it here. Okay. And I'm going to start a server. And then later we're going to inspect the code. So x -s. The CLI commands from Phoenix, they are very verbose. So typically I create a bunch of aliases for them. Okay, so we have on localhost port 4000. Go back to Chrome. Okay, this is our very boring e-commerce. Now, as you can see, we added to the router the promotions. So in theory, we should be able to go to /promotions. Now check this out. This is a very beautiful UI, in my opinion. All right, I'm gonna click new promotion. The name will be, I don't know, Happy Christmas. The code will be Christmas. It expires at, and we even have like the date picker here. So this is so cool. January, I'm gonna expire in February. Okay, that's it. Save promotion. We are redirected successfully to the listing page. We got a flash message here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can come here, close manually. Very cool. Let me go back to the top. All right. Now, yeah, we have these promotions. Oh, actually, this is not the promotions listing. This is the promotion details. So if I go back to the listing, this is the table. I can click on edit. So I'm going to say Happy Christmas, new code. Christmas new code. Save promotion. There we go. We now have a new code. If we go back, we can see it. Let me try deleting it. Delete. Okay, promotion deleted successfully. If I create a new one, I'm gonna say New Year's, new. No, the code is gonna be 2025. It's going to expire in, I don't know, April. There we go. Save promotion. If I go back, I can click on edit. Actually, I already edited it. I'm just gonna add another one. Random name, random code. Let me change the date. All right, save promotion. If I go back to the listing, we now have 2 promotions. So extremely cool. And we're not using live view here. This is just dead views. So there is not a lot of interactivity here. Every time you create something, you get redirected to a new page. So the UX is not top notch, but it's good enough. And you can generate the live views if you want. We're going to do that on a separate video about live view. All right, very cool. So let's inspect the code a little bit. As you know by now, the HTML generator generates the schema, generates the context, just like the context generator. Now the difference is that we now have new files on Shop Web. If I go to the controllers, I now have a promotion controller. And as you can see, for example, the listing page calls the context. It renders the index page. This one generates like a new change set. We also have one to create a promotion. So very basic stuff. And if you're new to Phoenix, I highly recommend you to use the Phoenix generators to study how it works. Like every time I need to create, for example, a form on live view, I always forget which component to use. There's like some helper functions to deal with forms, and I don't want to Google this. So I just run a live view generator. I check how it's being generated and move on with my life. So this is very good to understand like what's the recommended way of using contexts, what's the recommended way of dealing with HTML. Now if I close the controller, you can see that the product HTML is using that very useful function that I showed you guys called embed templates. Instead of defining all the pages here, we're using a separate folder. The only thing that is defined here is the product form component. So if we go to, actually, not even the product form component. Here you can just see the props of the product form. The component is also on a separate file, separate folder. And then on promotion underscore HTML, this is where you can find all the HTMLs that were generated. We have one for editing, listing, the product form. This is the component using the simple form from Phoenix. Very cool. Okay, what about the tests? As we know by now, we already have one test for the context. Very cool. We have one for the controllers as well. So here, and then as you can see, like inside the controller, we're also testing the response from HTML. So for example, this one creates a promotion. First of all, it's checking if you are being redirected, and then you're checking if inside the page you can find the string promotion and the ID. So yeah, we have a controller test now. And let me show you the support, the fixtures. Here, just like I told you, for example, the promotion code is unique, right? So the fixture generated from Phoenix also creates a unique code. Very cool, right? It's using the system unique integer. So as you can see, it generates a random expires at name and generates on the fly a unique promotion code. So that's pretty much it. There's not much that I can show you here. Like if you want to truly understand how everything works, you need to go to the documentation and check for yourself. So let's go back to the table, and here you can suit yourself. Like try to find whatever generator fits your needs better, okay? But most of the time, because I like having more control on the front end, I am simply running phxgen.context. Okay, so that's it for today. See you next time.